The Deputy Governor of Edo State, Shaibu, has declared his intention to run for the governorship position in the state. Shaibu, who has been at rift with his principal, Godwin Obaseki, unfolded his ambition to become next governor of the state on the platform of the People's Democratic Party. Now, explaining why he decided to contest, Shaibu, who was recently evicted from the Deputy Governor's Lodge, said the state needs a practical leader.
Well, the 2024 succession plan has been a bone of contention between Obaseki and Shaibu, who was endorsed by his ward for governor last week. The governor had declined to endorse his deputy, who hails from Edo North, claiming that another politician cannot be fielded by the party in succession to himself, who succeeded former Governor Adams Oshomole from the North District over 7 years. Shaibu, who also spoke on zoning and rotation among the 3 zones in the state, said while the other zones have had more than a turn at producing a governor, Edo North has had 1 turn. Now, we are joined this morning by Denis Osaretin. He is a lawyer and coordinator advocate for good governance and leadership in Edo State. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much for having me once again.
All right, that's great. I'm just going to start first with what seems to have been the cause of a friction between the governor and his deputy has finally reared its, I wouldn't say ugly head, but its head, so many can see. What's the conversations like, especially now that the deputy governor has made his quest known, not just to the governor, but of course, clearly to Nigerians?
We are actually in interesting times in Edo State because we have a lot of persons, all manner of people, showing interest to, wanting to occupy the #1 seat at the Osaretin Avenue. So just like every other Tom, Dick, and Harry that have thrown their hat in the ring, the declaration of the deputy governor last week didn't come to me as a surprise. It has always been, been in the rumor wheels. So he had just come out boldly, for the very first time as a man, to come and confirm what many of us have always believed to be the reasons behind all the political chicaneering in the states.
Well, but of course, it doesn't end here. I'm sure that there will still be the whole process of, primaries and the likes to, of course, confirm him as the PDP's candidate. There's also the conversation on zoning. And, I was saying it yesterday that Nigerian politicians, when zoning fits, them, they call for it. But when it no longer fits them, they argue against it. So let's talk about the zoning conversation. In Edo State, there is the claims that it is time for, I think, Edo Central to be governor, and that Edo North has had it too many times. Adams Oshomole was there, of course, not very long ago. And so what are the conversations currently on zoning and, how it is not, an Edo North, or it's not Edo North's turn to be governor?
Yeah, generally, I personally would want to see us, try to particularize our people in terms of the place they come from or the central districts where they have their umbilical cord, but the general, the large, perception or the agitations right now on the street clearly, points to the fact that it is high time maybe a candidate from the Edo Central or the Eastern-speaking part of Edo State also get a chance to occupy the #1 seat in the state. Of course, you are very right to have said that very recently it appears the power sharing formula has favored Edo South, Edo North, and the only people who appears in our recent political history not to have had the benefit of occupying that #1 position is people from Edo Central. And I don't blame those who are clamoring that it should be their turn this time.
Right. I'd like us to look at the statement made by the Deputy Governor himself on Sunday. Now, I went ahead to say, and I quote, "Edo people need practical governance, and you cannot experiment again with somebody that does not understand the politics of a good state and the needs of the people," end of quote. This statement likely seems to be talking to the current and sitting governor. And how are the reactions to this? Most importantly, is Shaibu about to start his campaign on a note that we've seen most recently where The current president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, had also mentioned that his own party isn't doing too well, therefore he needs to make a change.
You know, the truth be told, just to set the record straight, I didn't have the benefit of watching the so-called, interview or the World Press conference that was completely held by the Deputy Governor. If what you said is actually, true, that such statements proceeded from the mouth of no less a person than Deputy Governor, I must say it's quite unfortunate. But again, you believe a politician, the average politician in Nigeria, at your own peril, at your own risk. All right. So when politicians want to try to manipulate the populace or whip up political sentiment, they will mount the rostrum and begin to say or speak from both sides of their mouth. How do you say, expect a person who is currently occupying the number 2 seat in the state, telling you that he wants to bring some practicality to governance when you have been occupying this office for the past 7.5 years? Reminds you, the ticket of the governor is a joint ticket between the governor and the deputy governor. So whatever the governor does, it is also presumed to be, be something that has been thought out between the governor and his deputy. So for a deputy governor who ran on a joint ticket with the governor to be telling us now that there has not been any form of political governance, it's quite unfortunate. But I must sound a note of caution that those people must take these positions, take whatever they say with a pinch of salt. Because whenever they want to, whip up sentiment, they will be speaking from both sides of their mouth. And I don't want to take such a statement very seriously this morning.
Okay, well, I mean, you did make a strong point. He has been in politics for quite a while. He was at the State House of Assembly, moved to the National Assembly, eventually came back to become deputy governor. And so he's had, quite some time to make some impact as a politician in Edo State. I don't know that, there's a lot of people who can argue that he has made, that level of impact to make him the best candidate for the PDP. But of course, it's the party and the people that will decide, on that. But I also want to talk about the strength of the PDP currently. The presidential elections, if you remember, early this year, PDP came third, I believe. Second or third, I don't remember. But, does the PDP have that strength in Edo State currently to at least, assure Philip Shaibu of some type of victory? Because this is a huge gamble he's taking. Does the PDP have that strength currently in Edo State compared to the Labour Party, which, of course, has had a lot of followership lately, and the APC?
Truth be told, if you are talking about the frontliners, even at the level of the political, I don't speak for the PDP, but from what we see from the page of newspapers and even the media on the streets in Edo State, if you are talking about the frontliners or the strong candidates who have very strong political credentials, I don't see Philip Shaibu as being in the top 20. Because we have a lot of other persons who have indicated interest to, fly the flag of the People's Democratic Party. Back to the question whether or not the PDP, from my observations, have, any form of credibility or, have, they are sellable in this next election. Of course, the PDP right now is the only party in the state, and they boast of having the governor who probably will have, his preferred candidate and have the power of incumbency. You cannot take that away. Judging from the election that happened in Imo, in Kogi, and all that, you clearly see the power of incumbency being brought to bear in the fullness of expression. So, to that extent, the PDP still stands a very strong chance. Of course, you cannot, you can also, brush aside the surging influence of the other opposition parties like the APC and even the Labour Party. We have seen very strong influential politicians, technocrats, business people, professionals also indicating their interest to run on the platform of the other political party. For me, what is important for me is the level of robustness, the level of political maturity and participatory democracy that we have in Edo State. This crop of intellectuals coming from far and near to come and show interest in the number 1 seat clearly tells you that something has been happening in the past few years that people want to continue and sustain. And that for me is the benefit or the low-hanging fruit that we need to reap from all these politics that are going on in Edo State.
They're trying to benefit and sustain. I'm from Edo State. Since Lucky Benedion was governor, there's not that much that anybody can point to that any governor, successively has achieved in Edo State. If we're being honest, look across the state and the different local government areas of the state, there's not so much. And that includes Godwin Obaseki, who, of course, got a lot of support when he was, having his battles with the APC, moving to the PDP, and of course, winning his re-election bid. Maybe because I haven't, visited home in a bit, but since the last time, there's not so much that arguably anybody can say that any of these governors have achieved from Edo State. So can you speak on what exactly is the problem with governance in Edo State? And why it's so hard to get the state to be at some level of development?
Yeah, I will largely want to disagree with you that there's not been so much achieved in terms of governance. Look, judging from the very, very recently, Edo, for the very first time, the second election that brought in the current governor, you heard people there was a surge, a very high proportion of political participation. People came out en masse to vote for their choice and nobody went to court to come and challenge the outcome of that election. That really tells you that the level of political maturity and awareness of Edo State, and kudos will be given to the current governor of the state. When you say not so much has been achieved, like you have also alluded to, you've not visited the state in the recent times, so you may not really, you may not have the privilege or the benefit of it actually exploring sector by sector what has happened in Edo State. I live here in Edo State. I was born in Edo State. I do business and I employ labor in Edo State. I can tell you for a fact that a lot of things have happened in our recent history that needs to be sustained. For example, Edo was the first state. To think after the boss, to think of how to generate power as a state, as evidenced by the Osarogie power station. Even before the Electricity Act was signed into law by the current president.
Well, is it current?
The first state that led the charge.
Yeah,
so
but
right now,
thinking about it is different.
That generates its own power.
Denis Society, is Edo State generating its own power currently?
Yes.
How many megawatts of electricity does Edo State generate? Because I still have family in Edo State. So when you say that they're able to think outside the box, it was last week that University of Benin was being laughed at for putting out a letter saying that, BDC had told them that they wouldn't, certain area, Ugbo wouldn't have power till January. So they won't be able to sustain power in university. So what electricity is Edo State generating, please?
Beautiful. The Osarogie plant is a PPP arrangement that was initiated by the current state government. All right, okay. And that PPP arrangement, by law, clearly, the way it works is that it's a willing buyer and a willing seller situation. So if the University of Benin, like you have, like you have alluded to, have not subscribed to the power being generated by Osarogie, you cannot now blame the state. But is the infrastructure there? Yes, the infrastructure is there. Are people benefiting from that infrastructure? The answer is yes. I can tell you there are a lot of companies.
I'm not talking about just the University of Benin. I'm saying that BDC, which is the known electricity distribution company that covers Edo State, said that they wouldn't have power in Ugbo. And Ugbo is what I remember from the letter.
BDC is an independent corporate contraption that distributes. I'm telling you that Osarogie is a GenCo, is a generating company as distinct from BDC. Mind you, before now, BDC has some sort of a monopoly that Edo State government had to fight tooth and nail to break their bond by establishing the Osarogie power plants.
Whose responsibility should it be? You're still not getting it. You still don't get it.
To satisfy those corporates
Denis
that have decided to purchase power from that man.
Listen,
so the BDC failures cannot be
still not getting it. No. It is still the Edo State's government's responsibility. Because if you're saying that the state government has to ensure that Edo State has power, and listen, you might argue, because you want to paint it a certain way, but I have parents in Benin. I know what the electricity situation is like in Benin. I'm not, and when I said that I haven't been to Edo State in a while, I was just talking about last year. I've been Edo State at least in the last 1 year. So I know what the electricity situation is. I know what the level of infrastructure is. I may not travel to Edo North and many places.
And I'm hooked to almost 23 hours of power supply for most of my power plants.
So where do you live?
I live in the GRA in Benin City. I work in the GRA in Benin City. So I'm telling you that from my experience, I have 23 hours power supply for most of my power plants. So it's a willing buyer, willing seller situation. So Osioma is not going to come and give you power in Ugbo when you have not indicated interest to buy from them. But the power is available, the infrastructure is available, and it was made possible by a forward-thinking governor right now in the ends of affairs. So, let's even go a step further to the, to the sector that I work in the justice subsector. If you go to the High Court complex today, it is wearing a new look because a governor who has placed premium on the justice delivery system has built from scratch a new High Court complex in Benin City. Take a walk down the road. You can see the new, the secretariat wearing a new look. The new secretariat from Block A, Block B, to Block C in Sapler Road, wearing a new look. Courtesy this government. You can, check the records. On a daily basis, there's an influx of investors coming into Edo. Before now, it used to be seen as a public servant state. But right now, people can do business, there is security, and all that. So are we saying we are in Eldorado? The answer is no. So whoever is coming to come and take over from this governor must have the necessary acumen, must have the necessary exposure to sustain whatever the governor has done and to continue in that state of development. And that is the discussion we're having this morning.
Yeah, so after 8 whole years in office, the things that, we can talk about now and say that this is what Governor Godwin Obaseki has achieved in Edo State is a new secretariat building, and a new court building that was renovated or built. I'm not sure which one. Those are the things. So we can we speak about things like the Human Development Index in Edo State? Can we talk about infrastructure? Can we talk about maternal and infant mortality? Can we talk about security? These things that at least should improve once again Human Development Index in Edo State. Is there anything like that that has been improved? The last time, I'll be honest with you, the last time that I was in Edo State. The last time I was in Edo State.
I will give you a very practical example.
Yes, great. Let me just mention that the last time I was in Edo State, yes. It was genuinely one of my worst experiences because there's no light in GRA. There's no street lights, there's no traffic lights, there's nothing. And it was the new GRA that I saw the last time I was in Edo State. So maybe my area in GRA is different from the area that you live in GRA. I don't know.
I just told you now that I'm speaking to you from my office and I have 23 hours power supply in my office, courtesy of your power plants.
All right, that's fine. We're out of time, so we can't go any further.
All right. Mr. Osaretin, thank you so much. Your conversation shows also how passionate you are in looking forward to see things work, especially just like every average Nigerian who wants to see an improvement within their society. And if you can attest to the fact that there's been improvement, hopefully the next person to take over the mantle must also be consistent and continue to improve, especially within the states. I want to say thank you.
Whoever is going to take over from the governor must have the necessary exposure, must have the necessary educational training and experience, and have the capacity to manage men and resources. And the deputy governor currently does not have that capacity.
No, but this is a deputy governor that's worked with your governor for the last 8 years. So what are you saying? That in the last 8 years or 7 years, that the person who has worked right with your governor doesn't have any experience and he has zero experience whatsoever? And this is the same governor that you have said. But you've said that your governor.
This government should be attributed to the governor because the governor, the buck stops on his table. And I've told you clearly.
So
in my estimation,
the deputy governor who's supposed to be his right-hand man,
him must have the necessary wherewithal to sustain all the achievements the government has achieved. And the deputy governor currently may not, in my view, have that capacity to sustain that development.
All right. Interesting.
Anyway, we look forward to have you join us again. Hopefully, the campaigns will begin pretty soon. And when the campaigns begin pretty soon, we'll look at the angles, possibilities, and the likes. But then again, thank you so much for your time. Mr. Osaretin, thank you.